So here's how to use Indian pens again to develop the craziest, hardest punches imaginable. Like, be careful with this technique, because if you train it, you you could kill somebody like as easily as you can, like what you train with. So if you train with these Indian clubs that I think are only like 2 pounds, you will be able to hit eventually the same as you would with these weights. If you get the coordination and the timing pattern down, you'll be able to generate that same amount of force that you do with the clubs, and your hand will hit that hard. So you know, be careful with this, you know. So to do a hard punch, you have to be sending power throughout the entire time. So you have to, as you go, you have to continue to stay with yourself muscularly, so that the hand and the body and everything connected to it is accelerating the entire time. What normally happens when people throw a punch is that you generate the movement, and then your muscles kind of no longer help propel. It's just kind of like directing, or you're behind, or you've let it go, and so you only get, like, you know, a certain amount of impulse to do it there. So the Indian clubs are going to let us generate a ton of force the entire way, and that's going to be by training in spiraling methods that utilize the entire body. So every part of the body down to the toes, everything is going to be rotating, spinning, and generating power and thrusting it into the hit. And so this is normally like very subtle, and it's like, oh, I could never do that sort of thing. It's hard to see, it's hard to feel, I'm not that coordinated. So what we do with this Indian pen is that we use it to create something that's rotating, right? And you'll notice that if you have anything that's kind of like rotating, you can very easily kind of start to traction into it and use the whole body to rotate it. It's like a predictable rotational path, and it becomes very easy to figure out how to kind of incorporate any movement pattern into moving the rotational event. So with the Indian club, you're moving with your whole body. You're moving you're not throwing the hit, you're not throwing the club, you're throwing the spinning of the club, which is kind of right. You're throwing the activity of the hand, right? So the club makes it so that the activity of the hand becomes larger, and once the activity of the hand is like large enough, the rest of the muscles see it and feel it and are able to contribute. Normally the energy of the hand is kind of light and subtle, and so the muscles in the feet or the legs have a hard time feeling where the hand is to contribute to it. So by making the activity of the hand so much greater with the Indian club, that lets the legs and the feet and every other muscle in the body start to develop the neural pathways needed to be helping and accelerate the hand even as it's moving at fight speed. So when you throw this, you can just over and over feel, how do I, you can get any old movement to power these motions, and what you're doing is wiring the hand together and developing the muscles. So I'm figuring out how to swim the club forward with my hands, and maybe even push off the ground, but for me, I mostly like flow state swimming stuff. So this is letting my legs, even my legs in like a weird, I can do something like this, like a pitcher that has to drop their leg. I can be like, how is it that this movement of my foot can connect into this event of my hand? So I can figure out even how to have my leg in some weird position and figure out how I need to rotate so that like my big toe, even lifted up this high, is helping propel this rotation, rotating Indian club. Once that sight is in, you know those more distant body parts know how to look for the event of the hand. Even though it's smaller, you can focus harder, and you're really trying to get it so that everything's so normal. Whatever your fighting technique is still needs to happen. This is just about power generation, right? So it's just about how is the whatever strike you're going to choose, how is it going to be powered? It's going to be powered by as much of you as possible. So if you're worried about boxing technique or fighting technique or whatever, go find a fighting coach or whatever. This is the engine for effortless power. Well, it's not effortless, but and so you can figure out how to find it. And you'll notice that this is what they teach in Kung Fu, right? What is the Ping Chui punch? Comes out, they have it back here. And so you're finding that the whole body, everything, the spiral is finding this turnover, is finding the punch as it turns over, is finding the activity in the direction of the hand. So when you push or everything throws it, it's throwing the spiral. And so the Indian club is just giving that a weight so that you can push harder, you can find something less subtle. Like this motion is very subtle. The inertia of my hand, very, very subtle. I have to pay super close attention, maybe I miss it. But this, not subtle. Or if I even got a bigger weight, definitely not subtle. And that lets me really burn in the leg pathways in any position. You don't have to find the correct posture, form, or technique. Whatever posture you want to drill, figure out how do I get this power, how do I get the whole body to connect into this movement. And then so with this weight, additionally with this weight, your body is learning how to throw with that much force. So if you can get your coordination up and fire everything with that same amount of force and have it engaged at the moment of contact, it'll dump that entire exertion into the person, and that exertion has the same amount of energy behind it. If it's coherent, it'll have the same amount of energy as that. And so it's like hitting hard isn't about strength, because it's like you can pick this up and anybody can generate enough force using an object to cave somebody's head in. So it's not a strength thing. Nobody needs more strength to hit devastatingly hard. It's a coordination thing of you need to be able to throw that much force without the aid of the object. The aid of the object is giving you sight where you have poor vision. It's like easier to see. But if you realize that and you start drilling your sight and your sensitivity and your perception, you can hit as hard as any object you can manipulate. And so when the objects are like long, that gives you this big fulcrum, and so that just lets you see, it lets you feel the momentum and the inertia. If as hard as you can hit with a stick, if you fire the exact same mechanics with no stick, it'll hit as hard as you can do with the stick or with the implement. So it's most people think that, oh, I need to get bigger or I need to throw a harder punch, and it's like, no, if you just play with objects a little bit and play with the amount of force that you can generate when you have a big, easy to spot rotational center, if you see how that is enhancing your balance, similar to having a gyroscope, because it is kind of a gyroscope, so it's enhancing your balance. Once you see how that enhanced balance lets you hit so hard, you can work on enhancing the balance to let your barehanded strikes hit harder. Ultimately, it's all about balance, and even then, it's all about, mostly wrist strength. Like the wrist has to be able to take that much hit. But But yeah, this principle is very simple, but it's also it goes deep, uh, and like it goes down. I don't even know if it's I don't know if people should be told that. You know, you could turn your body into a weapon. You'd have to register it, like Steven Seagal.